Hello everybody, so I am joining you for a new book review for We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kleber, or Clear, I don't know how to say his name, Clearwire. If I said your name wrong, I am so sorry. Before I get into the synopsis of this book, I just want to give a quick introduction to myself and my channel, and this channel. This is the channel I actually share with my husband. So he's going to be doing a bunch of RC cars, a bunch of other little reviews, which he's already put on the channel, and I'm going to be primarily doing book reviews and gaming. So if you like any of those, please leave a like, please just subscribe so you can see more of our content, and let me go ahead and get into this book review. So this is a book I actually picked up from Barnes & Noble, I think a couple months ago, and it just drew me in right away because I've been wanting to have a really good haunting book. And this is a perfect book for any reader that wants a "this house is haunted" type of book. It is perfect. It is perfect from the moment you open this page to the moment you close this book, because it's so unsettling. Just even the writing itself is just so unsettling that it's just like, I'm at the edge of my seat going, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, what is going to happen next? And so this is my 5 out of 5. I had a recent review of Listen for the Lie, which I was like, oh, that's my level 5. But this brought that down to 4. And I'm expecting all my 5s to be like this. Because it was just so unsettling. The last time I was this unsettled was in 2013 or 2011 when I watched Walled In by Mishka Barton. That was the last time I was this unsettled by any kind of fictional story. Walled In is a movie. If you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, go see it, because it is unbelievably good. Unbelievably good. To this day, I still remember how that story played out. So that's how good that movie was. And this one is going to be on the same par. It's going to stay with me for a really long time. Because it's fantastic. I wish I could stop. I wish I could go back in time to read this as a first-time viewer again. It was perfect. So now here's the synopsis of this book. So you have Eve, and you have Eve, and you have Charlie. They are they're a couple. They are a fixer-upper couples group. And they go to old houses, they buy them, they fix them up, and they sell them, and so on and so forth. And so one of the nights that they're there, I believe the first night, this family arrives at the house, and that's Thomas, Paige, the youngest girl, Jenny, and then the 2 older brothers. And they're off. Something's weird. And they said, we'll only be in for 15 minutes, and then we'll leave you alone to go about your life. That's wrong. They do not leave after 15 minutes, and a lot of weird stuff starts to happen. So that's the premise of this book. Now, this video is going to be full of spoilers because I do want to have a conversation about this book. So if you have not read this book, I would suggest you stop watching and you go and pick this book up because it is just phenomenal. Okay, so for all you people that have stayed behind because you want to have a conversation, let me run you through how I feel about the ending, because I just finished this today. It's great. The reviews on the back saying that it can be distilled to, oh God, something ain't right here, is 100% true. So what I think happened, I think the house itself is not haunted. I mean, not that it's not haunted. The house itself is not warping reality. I think there is a ghostly entity, could be a demon, could be a mimic, that is actually haunting this house. And that person is Thomas. So the fact that the old man in the cabin is named Thomas. This is actually my second take of this video. So in my first adaptation of this video, I'd stated that Thomas and the Thomas that we know are not the same person. I don't think they're the same person. I think they're two different Thomases. So there's the Thomas that's in the cabin, and there's the Thomas that shows itself to Eve and Paige and everyone else. So, and the reason why I think that is because of the Morse code clues. If you have not figured out what the Morse code clues are, it basically tells the tale of the old man with the scar has lived in the cabin for centuries and goes by many different names. What I believe that means is that this house has been around for centuries. This cycle is repeating over and over and over again. And that it happened with Allison with the Fausts, and that now it's happening to Eve. And I believe it's going to continue going unless the cycle is broken. And Allison had actually given Eve the tools that she needed to break the cycle. But this entity lured her back to the house by using Shiloh and Charlie, by mimicking them. So I fully believe, with that in mind, that this entity that's haunting this house has so many different names that Thomas is the entity we know now. And I fully believe the old man with the scar, he may have actually been a victim of that house and that entity as well. But I'm not completely sure about the old man. I am not completely positive about what role he has to play in the house. But the entity definitely wants to keep people there. And the entity is so very dangerous that I believe Eve should have called a paranormal person to come in and cleanse the house. And that was actually something that I thought was going to happen in this book, where they're going to have the paranormal people in, there's going to be an exorcism, everything, anything. But they didn't. And that's also really good they didn't, because that opens a second book perhaps. And that would be phenomenal to have, is that you have Allison, Eve, and then at that point, then you'll have the next person coming in being like, oh gosh, I gotta fix this. I gotta fix this issue here. Or if there's like a new book that opens up where there's like a paranormal team that comes in after seeing all these different articles and reading and watching all these different articles and newscastings of this, especially with the new reality being that Eve doesn't exist and that she is Emma Faust. I fully believe that Eve and all of her reality, which is that she and Charlie were together, that they'd come to the house, that is the reality. But this entity changed reality of these certain people to where Emma is real and not Eve. I believe this entity is powerful enough to change reality of all these people that it's touched. So anyone that enters its domain, which is the house, is affected by this reality. So that would be, and maybe even it's every house on that summit. That's totally possible too, is that this entity is so powerful. And because it mentions a lot, ancient power, ancient power, ancient power. And it mentions that Allison's parents were kind and nice and normal, but then they become religious fanatics. And they become so religious that something else was happening in that house. And that's what I was thinking originally, was that this was like a cult kind of situation, that they had killed Allison because that she was stained by the devil. Which we do learn is not the truth. That's not what is happening here. So I fully believe that there is an ancient entity in this house that's haunting these people that continue to come into this house, and that it wants to play with people. Because when Eve and Charlie leave, it lures Eve back in. And I believe that's for two reasons. Number one, to play. And two, because of that cycle I was talking about. So if he does have another book that's in this same universe, I fully see that cycle happening again, where it's gonna be another woman comes in, especially because that old man in the cabin has lived there for centuries. That's the other thing that is quite interesting, is that the old man in the cabin is also depicted in Thomas at the very end. So that's another confusing point that could lead to the realities being warped. But when it comes to the house versus the entity, I believe it's an entity that's causing all of the things to happen, including warping reality, because in some lores, the ghosts can warp realities. So I think that's what's happening in this universe, is that the ghost is in the demon is actually warping the reality versus the house itself. So that is my take on this book. That's my take on what's happening in that book, in this book, rather, not that book. But if you disagree, if you agree with me, if you have some points to tell me that I completely forgot about and didn't even consider in my theory, let me know in the comments below. Please let me know what your thoughts are about this book. I absolutely loved it. I hope he comes out with a book too. I really hope he does. Or something in the realm of this universe, kind of like Alex Michaelides does with his The Maidens, The Silent Patient, and The Fury. Just perfect series. So it'd be really cool to see like Allison come back, or Eve come back, and Thomas come back, and then everyone else be completely brand new. And it'd be really cool to even to see Charlie come back, especially because of the ending where she is trying to find Eve, and no one knows where she is. It's like she doesn't even exist. So that's also something that was very interesting to me. It was, how was Charlie able to remember Eve when no one else could? That's a question that I'm gonna leave to you to answer. How do you think Charlie was able to remember Eve, but no one else did, including Eve's parents? But Charlie was able to. Let me know what you think, because that's a question I didn't even consider until now. So I'm gonna have to think more on that, because that's a really good point. How did Charlie able to remember Eve? But anyway, so I hope you all enjoyed this book review. Please, 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 please let me know what you thought in the comments below. And I hope that my question to you all about Charlie kind of sparked something in your brain, because it sure did for me. I will see you in the next book review. Thank you so much for enjoying this with me, and I will see you in the next video.